Philippine Foreign Secretary is handling matters himself in Tripoli. But that hasn't really made a difference to this young family.
There were so many people at the airport. It was so full. They were punching and shoving each other. But the Libyans were still nice to us. It was them that helped us get in because they saw the baby.
Some 500 Filipinos have now been repatriated and over 100 more are landing every day. They've escaped unharmed, but they worry about the thousands still left behind.
It goes beyond Filipinos and it goes beyond other nationalities. So we have to have, a cooperation, close cooperation, how we can help these migrant workers to be out of Libya.
It's nowhere near the end of the road for these travelers. Unsure of their future, international troubles have now left them with no way to feed their families at home. Marga Ortigas, Al Jazeera, Manila.
Well, joining us now is Tariq Yusuf, who's Dean of the Dubai School of Government and comes from the Libyan city of Benghazi. Tariq, thank you very much for being here once again. Let's start with the international community. Obviously, as we saw in that report, they're scrambling to get their citizens out of Libya. A hardening stance from the international community. We have Americans moving forces to the region. One British newspaper was saying this morning that the West is ready to use force in Libya amidst fears of a chemical weapons attack by Gaddafi. It almost sounds like the Iraq war here. Echoes of the Iraq war anyway.
Absolutely. All the events in the run-up to the Iraq war are beginning to shape the international community's response to what is happening in Libya and Gaddafi's own tactics in defying, in massing forces, in strangling cities, and in threatening to use every instrument of repression he has at his disposal at the moment.
So is a military option likely then? We heard Hillary Clinton say that all options are on the table to assist the people of Libya, that possibly military intervention. Would Libyans welcome that, you think?
I think Libyans would welcome any option short of ground troops in Libya. That would possibly actually paradoxically play in the hands of Gaddafi and turn this struggle, this confrontation between him and the Libyan people into a confrontation between him and imperialist external powers. But short of that, there are many options on the table at the moment. We've heard discussions about NATO officers, NATO officials engaged in all sorts of negotiations with the Americans over air and naval assets. That suggests that a surgical airstrike could be the first option of the military type that would be put on the table should you get to that. But a no-fly zone initially, and then from that point on, we'll see a gradual escalation in the international, not just economic and diplomatic, but also military pressure moving forward.
What about Gaddafi's options? We're hearing reports that he's massing troops in the west of Libya near the border with Tunisia. He's reportedly also cutting off food to areas in the east that are no longer under his control. What is left for him at this stage?
An all-out attack, fear and intimidation up to the last moment. I think trying to create a humanitarian crisis would be one of the instruments he still has at his disposal, and he could very well inflict not just on the Libyan people, but to complicate international efforts to isolate him, because now suddenly you'll have to worry about migrants, you'll have to worry about cities, civilians, infrastructure. I would not exclude him resorting to all sorts of tactics, brutal, repressive, and military, to essentially send a message of defiance and to try to regain some military ground that he'd lost.
All right. Tariq, as always, good to have your insight. Thank you very much for coming on Al Jazeera. In other news, police in the Democratic Republic of Congo have arrested more than 30 people after an attempted coup. Up to 60 armed men attacked the president's house on Sunday, killing 7 people. President Joseph Kabila wasn't at home at the time. Fighting spread to a nearby army base before the Republican Guard put down the attack. In India, the latest population census is trying to put an accurate figure on the massive number of homeless people in the country. But as Brenna Suri reports, critics say the survey has no chance of recording the real number of street people.
This is how India is trying to identify its homeless. Late into the night, government employees quiz this girl about what she does, who's in her family, and which God she believes in. Once they tick all the boxes, the information will then be used to assess her most pressing needs. It's an ambitious task, and it's happening as the country's census comes to a close. We've kept the homeless on the last day as we don't want to replicate data. They frequently move, so we wanted an accurate figure. Hari's lived his entire life on the streets of New Delhi and sells balloons for a living. He's been asked these questions many times in the past, but has life changed for him?
They've come here before, but what's the point? I still can't send my kids to school or get a decent job.
Nobody really knows how many homeless there are in India. Figures are sketchy and unreliable. And with no identification papers, children can't go to schools and families can't claim welfare benefits. The point of this exercise is to include every homeless person in this country, and government officials are all across India, and the time that they have to complete this is literally 2 days. So, not everyone's been counted. Across the city in a different area, this activist says people.
This is a total mockery of a statutory provision. Census gives you the real figures, and we treat census data as sacrosanct. That what realities emerge, we take it. We have learned from census data as such. People will be deprived of their basic rights, basic entitlements.
As the rest of India races ahead on the road to modernity, there's a real danger the flaws in this exercise may leave behind some of its most vulnerable. Predna Surya.
Let's now speak to Indu Prakash Singh, whom we just saw in that report there by Predna Surya. He's a consultant with the Indo Global Social Service Society, which has been helping count the number of homeless in India. Thank you very much for your time. This is certainly a very ambitious task. Tell us about some of the problems that you encountered while you were carrying out this exercise.
In fact, we volunteered with a director of census in Delhi, and there were a lot of groups that came together to support the enumerators. In fact, that's the reason why at many places, just because we were there, many of the homeless citizens got counted, or else they would have been left. But still, at many other places in Delhi, and I would say in other parts of India, there are lots and lots of homeless people who have not been enumerated till today. And I think the issue is also that I think many of the enumerators have filled one form for 10 individuals, one form for about 5 families, and made them one family. So I think the census enumerators actually are creating a fudging reality, are trying to create a new reality which actually is not there.
So the data then you're saying is inaccurate?
It is absolutely inaccurate, and like when hundreds of homeless people in Delhi have not been enumerated till this morning. They have not been counted in Mumbai, in Chennai, in Patna and other places. We've got reports from all over the country where our friends are working. I think it's the same scene everywhere. About 25% have been enumerated in Patna in Bihar, about 50% in Mumbai.
Right.
The same is at about 40% in Chennai. So I think it's all over the same problem. And in Delhi, we have ourselves been witness to it and seen how